Number 1. The year was 1950. The setting a small town in Maine. I was a boy of 9, rather small for my age, in fact, with only one friend in the world to speak of, and his family, seemingly on a whim, decided to move 2,000 miles away. It was shaping up to be the worst summer of my entire life. Now, this wasn't too abnormal, as for all the rest of my summers were pretty uneventful as well. But at that time, at least I had one friend to speak of. Now I had none. In my previous summers, I would just read in the house when I was not hanging out with my friend. But now, my friend was gone, so now reading seems like the best option, if not before, now more than ever. Most of my days, I would be at the public library, every day, in fact, and from the time it opened to the time it closed. Now, one day, I thought I had searched the entire library as I was there every day. But this one day, I looked to the corner of the room, and I saw a tiny little door that seemed to be older than the rest of the walls. And I was curious. I walked over to it, and it seemed to be even more ancient now that I was even closer to it. The doorknob had a footprint on it embedded in it. I twist the knob and I go through. Complete darkness. I close the door behind me. I'm frightened even more than I was before by the sight of the door, now by the immense darkness that I was just a part of. I put my hands out to search for a wall, maybe just anything that I could hold on to, but instead I found something better, a string. Now, back in 1950, most, if not all, of the light bulbs in buildings were handled by a string. So I pull it, and light appears. And to my left, I see a spiral staircase that moves downward. And my curious little mind decides, hey, let's walk down there. Now, as I start to make my way halfway down, I can see a light. Not from the light bulb that was just once above me, but through a door. There was another door, an even bigger one. This one was blood red. More darker, but still bright red, bright blood red. With the same footprint on the doorknob. This doorknob seemed even more ancient than the first. And I twist the knob, and I go inside. And I saw a library. Definitely smaller than the one that I saw upstairs, but perfect. All of the colorful bindings on the shelves, it was perfect for me. It was like my own little hideout. No one was in there. The dim lights, the 2 armchairs that sat in the center of the room were so perfectly comfortable. I couldn't believe it. It was my own little hangout spot, and I thought there would be no way that this summer could not get better after a discovery like this. And not only the things that I just listed, but there was a smell, a beautiful smell that I have not smelled as good in all of my 70 years since. It was sort of a citrusy pine mixture of a smell. It was incredible. Months later, after I was just finishing up a book full of knights and fighting and armor, I looked to the shelf, and there was a book that just seemed like it was calling my name. With the red binding, I thought that was the next book for me, so I grabbed it. And I opened the page, and the smell was even stronger from this book. I turned another page. The smell got stronger. Turned another page. The smell got even stronger. And I turned the last page, and the smell was the strongest that I'd ever smelled it. And there were words on this page. Words that I did not expect that would be there. My name. I was shocked. So shocked, in fact, that I dropped the book, not paying attention to it anymore. And I looked up to the other empty armchair to see that it was not empty anymore. There was a man sitting in the chair. I was so frightened that I ended up throwing up on the floor. The man chuckled a bit. He had gray hair, gray eyes. He was in an old suit, white hair, looked to be on the older side, clearly. He laughed and he said, "I think we got off on the wrong foot." And I said, "Who are you?" He totally avoided my question, and he said, "How would you like to go on an adventure with me?" I again asked, "Who are you?" And he said, "I can give you a better opportunity in life." And I was struck by this because I had no clue what he meant. So I questioned him, and he said, "Your mother is dead. In the kitchen, she committed suicide. There's blood everywhere. It's quite a grisly scene. Now, if you come with me, I will take you on a better path, and you won't have to see it." I was shocked by the words that just hit me, but I knew there was no way that he could be right. I walked backwards, not letting my gaze leave his, and I walked to the door, and I shut it behind me, not thinking for a second that what his words could have been the truth. I ran up the stairs, out the door, and out of the entire library. Got on my bike, and then I started riding home. As soon as I could see the front door in sight, I learned that it was wide open. I walked inside, and I still don't know why she did it. I've lived in that small town in Maine my entire life, although I've kept mostly clear of the public library. Once in my late 20s, I summoned the courage to step inside. Life was good at that time, and my fear had begun to morph into idle curiosity. Where the door to my basement sanctuary once stood was only a blank wall. I asked the librarian what had become of the basement, though in my heart I knew the answer. There was no basement, she said. There had never been a basement, in fact. If she had her facts correctly, city zoning ordinances prohibited a basement in the area. I've been haunted by that sickly sweet smell, that poisonous blend of citrus and pine ever since that long time ago. When I saw my mother in the kitchen that day, collapse in a pool of her own blood, I smelled it. When a man claiming to be my father knocked on my college apartment door, begged me for money, and beat me within an inch of my life when I refused, I smelled it. When my wife miscarried our second child, I smelled it, and again when she miscarried our fourth. When our oldest son got behind the wheel of the family Buick, absolutely wasted, and got his girlfriend killed, I smelled it. I began to smell it periodically as my wife became sick. She died late last year, and now I'm all alone for the first time in more than half a century. Now I smell it every day, and it feels like an invitation. A few months ago, I went back to the library, and the small oak door with the ancient handle was there, right where it used to be. My evening walk has brought me past that library every day since, but I haven't gone inside. Maybe tonight I will. I'm frightened to die, yes, but lately I've been more frightened to keep living. The old man was right. My road hasn't been easy, and I doubt it will get any easier. He promised relief, a refuge, he said. Was he right about all that, too? There's only one way to find out. After all, I still know where to find him. Number 2. I had never known that my friend had ever had one, until in 7th grade when she pulled out the Ouija board for the first time. Now, there was me, Elaney, Zoe, and Blake, and Chase, all at the house. We all thought it'd be a dumb and silly idea to start playing, so we turned on Netflix, and our first question was, "If you're here, change the show." And it changed from the home screen to some show about weed or something. We were like, oh, that just happens. Netflix does that sometimes. But I got scared, so I quit, and I just decided to watch. Everyone was still playing, and then they eventually decided to ask it when my grandfather had died. It gave them the exact day, time, and how it happened. I was in complete shock. I had no idea what to think. The next question was what my disease was. And sure enough, it said inconscientia pigmenti, spelled perfect. We were all freaked out at this point, so we threw it down the steps and went to bed. We woke up the next morning, and it was at the top of the steps, put perfectly back in the box, perfectly adjacent to the stairs. Number 3. It was a few years ago in Illinois. My aunt and uncle were getting ready to move into their new house. Their old one was in the exact same city, so they wouldn't be moving far, but their new one would be a lot nicer and on a lake. They had a lot of money, so their old house was still just as good. Me and my family decided to go up there one last time as a final farewell to the house that we had gone up to just to vacation for our whole lives. Now, the upstairs has a few bedrooms in this house, and I got one to myself, luckily. Nothing went wrong the first night, although the second night when I went to bed at around 10 o'clock, I woke up in the middle of the night. To what, I didn't know. I sat up to a dark room, still didn't know what I woke up to, but I didn't see anything. Thank goodness. As I'm a paranoid person, I always had to look around. Then I realized that I was extremely thirsty, so I got up quietly to get a drink, as to not wake up the rest of the people upstairs. I walked down the steps quietly and slowly to the kitchen. There I got a drink of water from the fridge, and I stood at the kitchen island slowly sipping my drink, when all of a sudden the air around me became like a walk-in freezer level of cold. Like when you're in the Walmart aisle next to all of the meats and the cheeses and the dairy products, that level of cold. I was so utterly confused at what could have happened, as it was in the middle of spring and there were no windows or doors open that could have done this, and the air conditioning couldn't have kicked on that hard. I looked around again, as I'm a paranoid person, like I explained before. Nothing. I had no clue what it had been, so I just dismissed it. As I went to put the glass back into the sink, I heard running, really fast running behind me. As I looked to the hallway, I saw nothing. And a few seconds later, it felt like a cold breeze just blew straight through me. And again, no windows or doors were open, so there were no drafts. Needless to say, all of the hair stood up on my arms and legs, and I legged it back to my room upstairs. Still have no clue what that was, but my mind just thinks I was playing tricks on me. But my heart tells me that it was something more, that there was something in that house, and it didn't want us to leave. Alright guys, thanks for watching the first video on this channel, and hopefully of many more. If you guys enjoyed it, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe if you are new, and if you have any scary stories of your own that you would like to share, just comment down below, and then I will get in touch with you somehow. Alright, thanks for watching guys.